Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the human among devils, movie 1. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Two unrelenting forces fought against each other in a never-ending struggle to try and gain the upper hand, neither one wanting to lose to the other. The first among these forces was Naruto Uzumaki, a young 17-year-old boy that wore a golden flaming jacket on top of his black bodysuit he wore underneath it. His hair was aflame like golden fire, and on top of the golden cloak were black circles on the shoulders, and 9 Nagatama lined up in a square on his back underneath a strange circular design. On his stomach was a golden circle with a black circle inside of it. He wore golden sandals with armored tops. On his forehead was a golden headband with a stylish leaf on it. Over the top of his eyes he had orange pigmentation, and his eyes were colored golden with crossed pupils. His skin wasn't glowing, the only non-glowing thing, and it was shaded with a light tan. On Naruto's right palm was the circle that represented the white sun, and on his left palm was the symbol that showed a black crescent moon. Originally, he only had the white sun until his opponent had killed his partner in this battle, and he had been gifted with his friend's half of the power, as well, that had been gifted to them separately. Behind his back were 9 floating black balls that were so inky black that it was like looking into a never-ending abyss. In his hand was a 10th black orb, named the Truth-Seeking Balls, and he was thrusting it towards his opponent. His opponent was a woman older than himself. She was Kaguya Otsutsuki, and she was a woman with soft, delicate features that were befitting royalty. She had milky white skin without any flaws visible at all, and a slim and slender figure. The rest was unknown, since over her figure she wore a bulky transitional home-style kimono with large sleeves, with Nagatama going down the front of the white kimono on the sleeves. Her eyes were pure white without any pupils, and her eyebrows were cut short, as a sign of royalty. In the middle of her forehead was a third eye that was colored red with rings around the pupil. On each ring were 3 Nagatama as well. Her long hair reached so far down that it was twice the length of her entire body, and sticking out of her head were 2 long horns shaped like rabbit ears with points. Above Kaguya was a moon size and growing truth-seeking ball. Oh hell no you don't. Naruto shouted, as he moved quicker than lightning itself, and appeared in front of her with his truth-seeking ball forming white blades around the edges of it. He was thrusting towards Kaguya, and she reabsorbed her own truth-seeking ball, and formed a portal behind her. She escaped through the use of the portal, and Naruto followed right after her into the void. In an instant the two of them were once again facing each other in a new dimension. Bone spikes erupted from her back yet again, and Naruto got only a quick look around him, as he dodged an all-killing ash bone that erupted from the palm of her hand, and tried to murder him. The new area around them was nothing, but colors, endless, and joyous colors that ranged from everything he could think of. The entire place was a stretch of colors for endless miles, like looking through an ever-changing scenery. Naruto saw that there was ground, and he flew towards the ground, and slammed onto it with enough force to shatter it, and make a resounding boom that echoed endlessly through the area. Naruto looked up at Kaguya, before he sprung from the ground, and slammed his fist into her gut. Her eyes widened, as a hole appeared where her gut was. Spinning upside down, he kicked her in the chin, and sent her flying into the never-ending void of colors if that made sense. Come on guys, give me a helping hand. Naruto called out, as golden energy exploded out of his body. The giant form of a giant 9-tailed fox with similar black markings around his energy body appeared around Naruto, with him being located floating in the middle of the giant energy fox's head. The torso of the fox was humanoid in nature, and so were his clawed hands. Naruto and the fox crouched, and both of them shot off towards Kaguya, as she healed rapidly from having her gut blown open. She glared down at him as he approached her, but both of them were surprised when a roar was heard. Heading towards both of them was a giant red dragon. The dragon was obviously red-colored and it had a thick body with a long neck that stretched to 100 meters long. On its snout was a great and sharp horn, and it had glowing gold eyes. It seemed to be heading towards them, but Kaguya only sent it an annoyed look, as she pointed her palm at the creature. A single bone spike shot at the creature, and it didn't even try to avoid being hit by the minuscule ash bone that soared at it. Kaguya smirked when the all-killing ash bone struck its target. Like the name suggests, the all-killing ash bone did just what its name suggested. One hit was all it took to kill anything that lived. It was an instant kill technique unique to her that would destroy any living thing that it struck at a molecular level, and then leave behind only the ash from the destroyed molecules that had made up the beings struck with her technique. Even now, the great dragon creature was being turned into ash, and dying off. It only lived for a few more seconds, before its body turned into nothing but ash that scattered and flew away. Kaguya smirked at that, before Naruto appeared in front of her already in mid-spin. He hooked his arm around her neck, before he held his other hand out, and changed the shape of one of his truth-seeking balls into handcuffs. They wrapped around her wrists, and Naruto let go of her for a second before he placed his hands on her breasts. The second his hands touched her boobs, she moaned for a brief moment before her eyes widened when her third eye started to close against her will. She started to fly up into the sky, as the entire dimension that they were in started to send huge chunks of rock and earth up towards her, even clouds rushed towards her. Her body grew in size, turning into a huge creature with a single eye and 10 tails before she became more like wood and screamed in pain as the rock and energy started to collect at her body and quickly form a huge moon around her, consisting of all of the nearby rock that was surrounding their new battlegrounds. Out of the moon 9 sources of energy started to collect and take different shapes under the giant moon above them. Naruto dropped down to the ground and smiled to himself when the giant creatures were finished forming. Every single creature being about 200 or more meters long in the body, and all of them towering over him. Naruto was panting only a little, and both symbols on his hands had vanished, showing that he had defeated Kaguya once and for all. The first creature was a giant brown raccoon dog with blue markings over its body, black rings around its eyes, and golden eyes with 4 pointed eyes. Behind it was a single bulging tail. This was Shukaku, the one-tailed raccoon dog. The next creature was a giant cat covered from head to toe in blue and black flames with both a golden eye and a green eye. It had 2 long and thin tails of blue flames shooting from its rear. This was Matatabi, the 2-tailed cat. The third giant creature had no back legs and was covered in a gray turtle shell with 3 huge shrimp tails sticking out from its back. This was Asobu, the 3-tailed turtle, another ally of his. Next was a 4-tailed and red-furred giant ape with bone spikes coming out of its back and going down its tails. It had 2 large fangs sticking from its mouth. This was Son Goku, the 4-tailed monkey. Next was a giant white horse with the head of a dolphin and 5 tails coming out from behind it. This was Kaguya, the 5-tailed dolphin horse, and next to this creature was a giant white slug with tiny human arms and 6 tails coming out of its rear. This unique creature was Seiken, the 6-tailed slug. Next to standing in tail order in the circle was a giant beetle creature that was mostly green with glowing yellow eyes. It had a horn on its head, and it had 6 wings and a single tail. This was Shimei, the 7-tailed beetle, and one of the stronger tailed beasts. Next was a giant light purple ox-like creature with bulky humanoid hands with a hunched back, no legs, and 8 octopus legs sticking out of where legs would be. This was Jayuki, the 8-tailed oxtopus, the second strongest of the 9-tailed beasts. Finally, the strongest of the beasts was Kurama, his own friend, a giant orange fox with long rabbit-like ears like Kaguya, and 9 long tails behind it. Naruto smiled at all of them before he turned serious and looked at them all with sad eyes. Shukaku Matatabi-san Shimei Jayuki, you all know what I have to do now, don't you? Naruto asked, as he looked around, and he got nods from them all. They were all more than likely trapped inside of this strange place for who knows how long, and it would be best for them if they returned to him. Should they be in him, then upon his death they would be returned to their homeworld. It would require him sealing all of them inside of him, and recombining with their fragments that they had left in him. Naruto knows they wouldn't like being sealed, but inside of him they would have each other, so hopefully it wouldn't be too bad until he could find a way back and release them. The glow on his body died down to reveal a black and orange ripped tracksuit, and his hair became less spiky and flame-like and became the normal golden color. His eyes turned back to blue, and 3 bar marks on his cheeks turned into whisker marks. His right sleeve was mostly gone, showing a fishnet armor undershirt underneath it. Naruto's ripped tracksuit having the zipper down halfway to his stomach. Naruto closed his eyes and placed his hands into the same seal that he had used a few times before, when either resealing Kurama the first time after they fought each other, and the one that he had seen Obito use to seal the 10 tails inside of himself. In a swirling fashion, all of the tailed beasts were absorbed into his body one by one, as he closed his eyes tighter. Naruto hated having to do this to them, but this way they would only have to wait a short while before they were Naruto groaned, and held his stomach for a moment in pain. Naruto felt similar to how he was when he was being summoned by somebody else, but this time instead of an instant pull Naruto could feel this place refusing to let go of him. Naruto felt like throwing up with how he was being both pulled back to possibly his home dimension, and being pulled to stay in this new one. Naruto felt like he was going to be split any second now. Cracks in space started to appear around him, even time being fractured by the summoning, and this world fighting over who got to keep him. Naruto held his hand out, and slowly a fast-spinning maelstrom of golden energy appeared in his hands that was the same size as his head. The sphere of chakra started to spin faster and faster, before Naruto thrust it forward at the cracks in space and time, before he shattered the boundaries between the two, and opened up his own portal out of this place. Naruto groaned, as he jumped through the portal, and felt all of that tension vanish from his body the second his feet landed on grass. Naruto looked behind him, before he held his hands in the open space. Kaguya was inside of that dimension, so it would be better to just seal it off completely. Naruto held his hand over the crack, before he twisted it, and the dimension itself seemed to close up to everything around it. Naruto grinned at how he completely and utterly sealed off not only Kaguya, but that strange dimension from anyone that would like to enter it. He hadn't sensed a single living thing inside of that place after the death of the dragon-looking creature, so he didn't feel bad about making sure that nothing would ever be able to enter that dimension ever again. Though, with Kaguya being in there, he couldn't risk anyone ever going inside of there anyway. Naruto thanked the Sage of Six Paths for giving him the knowledge about how to seal away things, and the ability to do it. Naruto grinned to himself, feeling giddy that he had done something so awesome after days and days of constant fighting against Kaguya. That was right. This wasn't the first day in a row that he had fought her after the death of his partner Sasuke. Naruto had ended up fighting Kaguya for an entire 3 days after that, with today being the very last day that he had taken to seal her away. Along the way, Kaguya had destroyed over 17 different worlds that their battles had taken place at, and he felt bad about that. Even though many of the worlds had no sentient life on them, Kaguya had destroyed every single one and replaced it with a new world in its place that was filled to the brim with chakra. He had been able to use that chakra to empower himself and keep himself going even longer than he normally could. Naruto grinned to himself before he placed his hands behind his head and fell back onto the ground with a sigh of relief. Naruto suddenly felt tired after days of fighting, even though he had full chakra after resealing the tailed beasts into himself. He was on maybe his 4th or 5th day of no sleep after all, so closing his eyes, Naruto allowed sleep to take him away. If anyone tried to wake him up, he would stick his foot in their ass. He deserved this rest. Was this the source of that massive source of power? A silver-haired woman in her early 20s with startling silver eyes and fair skin asked, as she looked down at the sleeping Naruto on the grass. She was wearing a standard maid's clothing in blue and white, and on top of her head was a maid's headdress. She had her long hair in a braid, and her body was very voluptuous. She was a slim waist with good hips, and far above average breasts that almost burst from her uniform. She radiated a power that seemed to give off a cold in nature appearance. Even if it was unseen by those around them, it could be felt though. This was Grayfia Lucifuge, and 3 days ago there had been a massive power surge that echoed through the entire underworld that had come from this area. The power was so massive that it had been felt from thousands and thousands of miles away before it lowered down to something less noticeable. Yet, nobody would forget what the power had felt like in the slightest. The power was completely human. There was a human with more power than anything she had ever felt before, and his body was in front of her sleeping on the ground in torn clothes. His body was unknowingly suppressing most of his power from being sensed, but those sensitive to this would be able to tell this was the source of the power right away. This human, one of the weaker races, had more power than even herself on her best day by a long shot, and it was so amazingly potent. It was so focused in his body that she believed that if he should release it all at one point, then not even she would escape the range of his power unscathed. That was not good, not in the slightest. She frowned for a moment when she looked at the boy, who seemed to be 17 or so years old. When she had been 17, she had not been even a fraction of the strength that she had felt coming from him. That alone stated how high his potential was, and normally that would be a great thing, if this boy could be reincarnated. She seriously doubted that this boy could be turned. He was simply too powerful. It was possible this boy was some form of Buddha or minor god recently turned into such after attaining a state of enlightenment. The odds, and Buddhas were immune to the transforming process of the evil peace system that had been created by devils to boost their own numbers. Not to mention, the more powerful the person, and the more their potential, the more they were worth. With the pure power this boy had currently, and the amazing potential that he had for the future, she doubted that anything but a mutated queen coming from the peerage of a Satan would be able to turn him into a devil. And even that wouldn't work if he was a god or Buddha instead of a human like she believed at first. Summoning her magic, blue eyes snapped open, and there was a blur of motion in which Grayfia was slammed into by a massive amount of force that grabbed her by the throat. She gagged at the pressure, before she grunted when she was slammed into the ground by the blue eyes blur. She felt something sit on her gut in the second that she could have reacted, and looking up, she noticed that the boy was holding his fist up in a position like he was grabbing something, with a golden yellow sphere of spinning energy in his hands. In that 1 second that this had happened, Grayfia was still having trouble forming words because of the hand choking her to death. The white circle appeared under both of them, and she grunted, and was forced into losing control over her magic, when the blonde-haired boy slugged her in the face right in the eye hard enough to actually daze her of all people. It felt like she had just been smashed into by enough force to shatter steel, which was harder than rock by a good amount. Huh? Naruto questioned when he blinked and realized what was going on. Grayfia saw him look down at her with a sheepish expression, before he stood up from her, and offered her a hand to help her up. She didn't accept the hand, and stood up on her own. Sorry that I sensed something, and thought I was being attacked. Naruto said with a true apologetic tone to his voice. I am Grayfia Lucifuge, maid of the household of Gremory. I apologize for the rough meetings, but a few days ago a large disturbance was sensed in this area, when a power that radiated through the underworld appeared. I was sent to find out what had been the cause of it, and I found you sleeping here. Grayfia introduced herself formally, finding his explanation on why he attacked her to be one that she could forgive rather easily. It was her activating her powers that had caused him to attack her in the first place, so she was at fault for activating her powers in front of a ninja. From his clothes, disregarding the orange, he was dressed in the clothes that one would expect of a ninja. He had a weapons pouch at his thigh, and behind, was wearing a light, but durable ninja wire mesh shirt underneath his shirt, and his shoes were traditional ninja wear. Not to mention he was able to hide almost all of his massive power without being detected, as much without him flaring it. He had been faster than her in that split second. She couldn't explain the inhuman strength away, since his body didn't suggest that kind of muscle strength, but a rapidly blackening eye was going to need magic to heal it soon before it swelled shut. You have a weird name. Who names their kids something that has fudge in it? Naruto questioned with a scratch on his chin. My name is Lysifuge Grayfia, made of the household of Gremory. Where I am from, speaking one's given name first is the normal form of greeting, with family name second. Grayfia corrected without giving away any emotion that suggested that she was angry about him unknowingly mocking her last name. Well then I'm Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto being a given name. Just call me Naruto, or the awesome Toad Sage Naruto of Mount Maiboku, or Super Sage of the Six Paths Naruto Uzumaki, the handsome, the man that conquers gods. Naruto said, bragging about himself in a way to show that he was maintaining his self-confidence, even though by his own hands, he sealed himself away from being summoned back to his own world. He couldn't risk Kaguya getting out, so sealing off this dimension from those farther away from it had been the best choice of action. Sasuke's death had released the infinite Tsukuyomi, so there was nothing to worry about. Conquers gods. Even with your power, I find that hard to believe. Grayfia said, trying to find out anything that she could about this boy. Hey. Screw you. Kaguya and I were fighting for days, and I just defeated her a few days ago when she killed that giant red dragon thing that interrupted us. Naruto yelled at her for being disbelieving about his claims. Grayfia's eyes whitened greatly when she heard that sentence that he spoke. This Kaguya defeated the Great Red, the true dragon, after days of fighting this boy, and this boy defeated that woman, who killed the strongest being in existence. That alone placed this boy as the strongest being in existence for defeating the one that defeated the strongest existence. She could read his micro expressions, and everything this boy was saying was completely true. Otherwise she wouldn't have believed him, but she knew that if this boy was right, then it would be best to not push him. Her earlier thoughts about him being unable to be turned would be correct, meaning that here was a human that could wipe out the devils, as a race if he wanted to, and there would be nothing they could do against him. It was simply horrifying that so much power was laying in wait inside of such a young boy. She hid her expressions though, with only her eyes being what changed, and she looked at him, and gave him a light bow. I believe in you, Lord Naruto. If I may ask, how old are you? Grayfia asked in as respectful a tone as possible, unless this might smite her where she stood. Naruto on the other hand was shocked that this woman bowed to him all of a sudden. I turned 17 a few days or maybe a week ago, I guess. Do you have any food on you? I'm really hungry. Naruto said, as he rubbed his empty belly. He hadn't eaten since the day before his birthday, and he battled Kaguya for about 4 days straight with no rest or food, and he was asleep for 3 days, so yeah, he had gone a week without eating anything. Naruto groaned in pain at the growling of his stomach, and Grayfia sighed in relief. The boy was a complete idiot, which was actually a comforting thought. If the first thing he asked of her was food after she tried to kill him, which she did try to do, then the boy was either too trusting, or he knew that her poison would work on him. Which they more than likely would not, seeing as she could feel the massive amount of pure life force inside of him. She had little doubt he had some supernatural way to heal himself of sickness or injury, even if she did poison his food, and she had only tried to kill him, because she thought that he was a threat, which he both was, and wasn't. This boy didn't seem the type to attack people without reason, so without giving him a reason to attack he wouldn't attack. Come with me, I will take you to the Grayfia said, before Naruto lifted his arm up, and shoved it into the ground, and pulled out a large bug the size of his fist. Naruto sat down on the ground, and closed his eyes, as sand pulled into his lap, and formed a bowl. He clenched his fist, and the sand turned into rock. Naruto held his hand over the bowl, and a blue flame erupted from his palm, and roasted the earth bowl, until all that remained was a bowl that was made out of some sort of strange blue crystal. Naruto held his hand over the bowl, as he formed a seal with it, and water started to fill up the bowl. He placed the bug inside of the bowl, before he started to heat up the water. Grayfia watched, as he super speed heated the water, and the bug inside of the water, turning the large bug inside a steam-cooked meal. Naruto closed his eyes, and reached the ground again, before he pulled out a few more insects, and inserted them into the superheated water, which was taking on a yellowish burly color. Naruto grimaced, as he looked at the steamed bug stew that he had been taught how to make by Ma, when he had been training, as a sage well taught was a strong word, instead he learned by watching her do something similar. Grayfia was surprised when Naruto gripped his fist, and chopsticks made out of coral appeared. Never mind, I'm good here, and now that you know I caused that thing you can go away. I need to get a home out here. Naruto said, as he started to chow down on the food with a visible grimace on his face. I can fix you something to eat back at the estate, and should your impression be to their liking, I am sure that you will be welcome there. Grayfia told him, finishing what she would have said before. Naruto looked at his bugs, before he stood up, and threw them, as far away as possible. He only got them because he was sure that this high-class lady wouldn't actually give him food. Now that was a possibility, he was going to eat people's food instead of big bugs that he fished out of the ground like a bird would worm. What kind of weird name is Gremory anyway? Oh well, they have good food right, like ramen. Naruto asked with a grin on his face, and Grayfia looked at Naruto for a second, before she nodded slightly without making a comment against him mocking others. She had a feeling that he was the blunt type that didn't care who you were, or your status. If he wanted to say something, then he was going to speak his mind. She had the feeling she should never introduce him to her husband. For some reason she could see the two of them getting along way too well. It was always the strongest ones that had the weirdest quirks of all. Yes, ramen can be served. Shall we get going? Grayfia asked with a lighter now than before, and Naruto shrugged. It wasn't like he had any plans of his own right now, other than building his own house. Naruto saw a white circle appear under both of them, and he could feel the same pull of being summoned. Naruto let himself be teleported away with Grayfia, but Naruto grinned to himself even as he was being teleported. Free food, here he comes. Father mother, what is going on? The young red-haired girl asked in shock when she and her entire group of friends, allies, shook on their knees at the presence of a huge amount of energy inside of the castle she lived in. She was about 17 years old, and she was of a slim, slender herbless figure with very large breasts, and long blood-red hair that fell down her fair-skinned back. She was wearing a dark red dress, as she had been instructed to wear for such occasions, as an important person coming. In front of her were her mother and father, with her father being a man looking to be in his early 30s with hair that was of the same general style, wearing a white suit. He had red hair on his chin, and both he and his daughter had bright green eyes. He seemed to be sweating more than a little, as well, unlike her who was extremely nervous, and almost on her knees, and vomiting from the largest amount of pure, raw, energy that she was feeling crashing over her shoulders, and pushing her to the ground. She was sweating enough for it to be, and the castle itself was forming thousands of cracks on the wall, as cracks on the floor, and small bits of marble and stone floated in the air. The amount of power was staggering. Her mother was the only one that seemed to be immune to this power, though she was frozen still. She looked exactly like her daughter, exactly, but her hair was a light brown color with her eyes being brown, as well. She wore a delicate white dress, but she wasn't moving much to refrain from wasting her energy fighting against this power that was in their castle. These people were Ria's Gremory, Lord Gremory, and Lady Gremory of the noble Gremory family. Behind Ria's were her peerage, the servants that she had reincarnated into devils. Directly behind her was the queen of her peerage, Akeno Himejima, a young girl the same age as Ria's, though was shorter than her, but with the same herbless figure. And bigger breasts that looked to almost unreal level. She had long black hair done up with a ponytail, and she wore the traditional clothing of a shrine maiden at the moment. She had a blush on her face at the moment, this unrelenting power crashing over her like the rest, but also turning her on. Her violet eyes burned holes through the walls, as she tried to find the source of the power that was slowly crushing her to death. Behind her were two others, the first being a young male that looked to be 16 years old, with bright platinum blonde hair, and striking blue eyes. He wore the white robes of a prince, and had the looks to pull off the look as well. His hair was slightly spiked, but right now it was pulled back, and gelled to keep it in a formal state. This was the knight of Ria's Gremory, Udokiba, and he was not looking forward to what thing was causing this huge amount of power that was pushing him to his knees. The last person was a young girl of 15, who looked shorter than normal. She had neck-length white hair with the sides of her bangs going down to her shoulders, with a black cat clip on her hair. She had bright yellow eyes, and she wore a yellow dress that went down her petite body, and fell down to her knees. She was the least endowed, only being maybe a cup, and her skin was the fairest of the females in the room. She was sweating, and gasping like the others, but she was on her hands and knees with her blue and white striped panties showing lightly. She was the most affected by the extremely heavy aura of power that was in the area. This was Kaneko Taoju, the rook of Ria's Gremory. We have a guest here today. He is a very powerful human, and from what we have learned he doesn't seem to know that he releases so much power. He is eating right now, but when he is done I had requested to meet with him. Lord Gremory said with a grimace, while the others looked completely shocked that a human was releasing this much power without meaning to. Not only that, but there was a human in a castle filled to the brim with devils. That enough was cause for concern that a human was in the underworld with this much power, and hadn't been taken out by something attracted to this power. How? Riaz asked with wide eyes, as the power seemed to get a little more dense, and they started to sense it more clearly. It would seem that a god slayer has descended to the underworld by mistake. So please, do not do anything to offend my daughter. Vanillana Gremory, also known as Lady Gremory, told her daughter with a slightly stern look on her face. She was extremely nervous, not having met this mysterious presence in their home yet. She would consider it rude of this man not to show himself to them first, but the fact that they couldn't risk offending and forcing him was even more apparent. The God Slayer, does he have a long anus? Rias asked when she regained some of her composure. No, Grayfia sent back a message. This boy Naruto Uzumaki has zero sacred gear inside of him. The boy is pure human, but unlike anything she has ever seen. So please do nothing that might offend him. This is a great chance for our family. If all goes well, I will cancel the engagement between you and Riser and move it to Naruto Uzumaki. The child of a God Slayer will be worth more for our race than the union between the Gremory and the Phoenix. Lord Gremory told her with a thoughtful expression, and Rias was both shocked and pissed off at the same time. She was already stuck in one loveless engagement that she had been arguing against for years, and for 1 second, she had the hope to be free of a loveless marriage. Do you expect me to get married to some old man? Rias asked, before she fell to her knees when the power got even closer to them. On the contrary, Naruto Uzumaki is the same age as you, 17 years old. Grayfia's exact message is this: Lord Gremory, upon my discovery of the cause of the power pulse, I have discovered a boy of 17 years old that has conquered a god. He is powerful, but stupid, with a quick temper. He will no doubt be curious about meeting you. And then she commented on how he was stupid again. Lord Gremory said with a slight amused look to his face at this little bit of information about the powerful boy's idiocy. He had to admit, he was both fearful and excited to meet this boy. The doors to the room opened quickly and slammed into the wall, and soon they all looked towards the source of the power, and were surprised when they saw the form of this Naruto Uzumaki, in his battle-torn clothes, as he walked through the room while patting his stomach. Grayfia was right next to him as he walked, and he had a huge grin on his face. Okay, that was good ramen. I give it like 3 stars. It wasn't much when compared to the old man's ramen, but it was definitely filling, yo. Naruto said, as he looked at all of the fancy people in the room kneeling on the ground in front of him, panting, and looking like they were going to pass out at any moment now. Lord Naruto, can you please hold back your energy? Ever since you entered the castle, you have been releasing large amounts of power. A civilized conversation cannot take place like this. Grayfia told him with a neutral tone to her voice, getting a blink from Naruto. I've been doing Sorry, I was using my chakra to feel around the castle. Whoops, sorry about that. Naruto said, as the immense pressure in the room vanished completely, as it was sucked back inside of Naruto. The others took their first breaths since he had entered the room, showing just how strange Grayfia was for being able to stand next to him with only a light amount of sweat on her forehead. Even she was affected by the powerful energy, just not to the same extent as everyone else, that felt that energy pushing them down to the ground. That is alright, young man, I am Lord Gremory started, before he noticed that Naruto was looking at him. Sorry, but you look a lot like my mom. She had red hair like that too, and she had really soft and girly features like you. Were you some kind of pretty boy or something? Naruto asked, and Lady Gremory sent her husband an amused look when he actually spluttered in shock at the bold statement. Rias covered her mouth to hide her giggles at the statement, while the others in the room were just shocked that a god slayer was acting so not cool or wise, like a disrespectful teenager which she was. Lord Naruto, that is Lord and Lady Gremory, the masters of this estate. The young red-haired lady is Lady Rias. Please show them respect. Grayfia requested of him, and Naruto waved a hand at her. Nah, I'm good. I don't show people respect if they don't earn it. Rank doesn't mean crap to me, that is why you are Gramps Tomato, and you are Granny Coco, and you are Cherry Girl. Naruto said, as he dubbed the Gremorys in the room with insulting nicknames, shocking them all at just how well he used their hair colors against them, from red and brown to tomato, and cherry to cocoa brown. It was strange that somebody so disrespectful was appearing before them. Granny, I assure you I am not old enough to be called such. Valinala stated, as she placed her hand over her large chest, where her heart would be, and testified to how she was not old. Cherry Girl? Rias asked, as she looked at her hair, before she remembered the stem of hair that she affectionately called her hog. It did sort of look like the long stem to a cherry, and with her face and hair making the resemblance more uncanny, she could understand where the name was coming from. Yeah, I mean you look delicious like a cherry, and I hate tomatoes. I like cherries even more when they are on top of ice cream. I mean, you are really cute, but I don't want to. I mean I would because you are really pretty, but you're sexy, and all, like a cherry. Wait, cherries aren't sexy? Well, I guess they would be. What was I talking about? Naruto asked after ranting to himself, after getting nervous when talking to a really cute girl. Everyone was looking at him like he was stupid, but Rias was the first person that recovered from it. How delicious I look like a cherry. Rias told him, kind of dumbstruck by this entire thing. Right? You also kind of my mom. She has really hair, and was a total babe. Not that I want to do my mom or anything. I mean she is dead anyway, like my dad. So sorry. I've never met anyone as pretty as you that wasn't a hooker or a slut. Are you a? Naruto started to ask, before he stopped himself from finishing that sentence. Rias actually giggled into her hand again at how awkward he was being around her, and Naruto laughed at himself moments later. Well, thank you for the compliment. Can I just call you Naruto? Rias asked with a smile on her face, and her parents looked at her with wide eyes. How could she earn things with a powerful man like this, by showing such disrespect in front of him like that? Huh? Sure, everyone calls me that anyway or dead last idiot, but yeah, you can call me Naruto. I guess I have to call you Rias now. Who are those weird, sweaty people behind you? Are they a peerage thingy or something? The granny Grayfia tried to explain to me. Naruto asked, getting a twitch from Grayfia. Apparently she hadn't heard this one yet, or she was annoyed that she was being called a granny. The peerage behind Rias was shocked at what they were hearing, and the blatant disrespect that the strongest queen of the underworld was getting. As much as this is amusing, I was wondering, where do you hail from? Lord Gremory asked, placing the attention onto himself. Naruto pointed to himself, getting a nod from Lord Gremory, before Naruto grinned. You know round. I don't really know how to explain it, Pa was good at, Naruto said, before he was interrupted. Pa, didn't you say your dad was dead when you were rambling? Yudo asked with a raised eyebrow. Huh? Did I? Yeah, my dad's dead. Pa is the toad that taught me Senjutsu, and helped me master it at Mount Maiboku. Well, Ma did too, but she mostly made me eat bugs to adjust to the life of a toad sage. Naruto explained, and a white-haired girl behind Yudo was visibly shaking at the mention of Senjutsu. Naruto shrugged it off, as nothing, before he thought about something for a second, and with a wide grin on his face, he looked at Lord Gremory. Hey, if it isn't too much to ask, do you mind if I stay here for a while? I kind of want to sleep in a real bed right now. Naruto pleaded lightly with his hands clapped together, one eye closed, as he gave one of his trademark grins. What? Every single person, besides the trembling white-haired girl, asked at the same time at the bold request. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anywhere to go, and I promise that I will return the favor. Anything you want, if I can do it, just let me stay for a while. Naruto continued, and Lord Gremory actually smiled at this. He got up and walked over towards Naruto, and stood in front of the shorter male, before he extended his hand at Naruto. Naruto took the hand, and started to shake it, taking that as the sign that Naruto was being accepted into their home for now. You're welcome here from now on. It would be wrong of me to kick my daughter's new fiancé out of my home. Lord Gremory said with a charming smile, and Naruto froze at this, and started to sweat. Rias palmed her forehead at this, and looked very annoyed, while then Alana looked towards Rias with a nod of approval, telling her not to make a scene about this. Naruto did say that he would do anything if he could do it. Huh? Naruto shouted in shock. It is simple, in our agreement you said you would do anything in your power to do in exchange for me allowing your stay. Well, I wish you to marry my daughter Rias Gremory. I can see nothing but a bright future ahead of you, and you seem like a good-hearted young lad. Lord Gremory said with a smile on his face, and Naruto's jaw dropped at how casual this entire thing was going at this point. Naruto looked at the hand that he used to shake, and agreed to this entire thing, before he looked up at the ceiling. Fuck you Sasuke pervy sage mom, I know this is somehow all of your faults. Damn, I need to read the fine print before agreeing to crap. Naruto said with a grimace, but he made no motion against this either. He always kept his promises, and never went back on an agreement. You are accepting this quite easily, Lord Naruto. Grayfia commented, and Naruto nodded before he rubbed his shoulder. In the last week, I turned 17, met my zombified dad, fought, and cut in half a god tree, a ninja god, a guy that had freaky powers, had tons of my friends die, lost my best friend, teacher, and past love interest, and sealed away another god. I have had a busy week honestly, I think I am still numb right now. Naruto said, referring to how he felt on the inside. Right now he felt numb to the world, he had lost everything, but he didn't really feel it. He was pretty sure that when all of this truly hit him, then he would feel it, but right now he was just numb to everything, and set his default personality to it. Oh, I didn't know. Lord Gremory said with a frown on his face, honestly not sure if he could go through with this now, while the others felt pity for the boy. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly, before he yawned. It's no big deal Gramps, though when it all hits me I guess being numb is a good thing. Naruto said with an awkward smile, and he got sad looks from everyone in the room that could somewhat understand what he was going through to some degree, some more than others. Naruto yawned again, before turning around, and started to walk away. He was going to find a room to sleep in, and then enjoy a week of uninterrupted sleep like he should be enjoying. He really deserved it. He has been sleeping for like 3 days now. Ryu said, as she looked at the spot on the floor that Naruto was sleeping on. He had long since fallen off the bed that had been provided for him, and if he was this sleep-deprived no wonder he had such a numb look to him. It wasn't hard for others to tell that he wasn't really in the right state of mind to make any life-altering choices. Though, it seemed like it would be easier to trick this guy into letting her not marry him than getting out her old marriage agreement. The one that she did not agree to. He must be exhausted. Akeno said with a pleasant smile on her face when she saw Naruto scratching his butt in his sleep. It wasn't the most attractive of things to do, but it wasn't like a sleeping person could stop the need to scratch their ass. Honestly, when I heard that he was a god slayer I believed it. Now I am having some trouble believing, Guaria shouted in shock when a large amount of power started to form in the air around them. They both were forced to their knees, and before they could fall onto their faces they kept their balance on their hands. They both wondered what had caused this, until they heard the sound of Naruto yawning, and slowly starting to sit up from his spot on the floor. The power output seemed to be cut off at that moment when Naruto started to suppress his energy again. It would seem that only those near, around, at, or above the Satan class could stand to be in his presence when he wasn't suppressing his power more than what he naturally released. "Jury girl. And who are you?" Naruto asked when he laid eyes on Akeno, having not heard her name before he had left. "Akeno Himejima, Naruto-sama." Akeno said respectfully, knowing that among devil culture you always address those of higher status than you with respect, even if they were your age. Naruto was engaged to Rias, meaning that he was of a higher status even, as a human. It was something that she couldn't avoid doing, and she didn't want to accidentally screw up, as well. A good amount of fear, that made her nether regions moist, was a good motivator to not try, and mess or seduce the guy with good old-fashioned teasing. "Naruto-sama, what sort of bullshit is that? Don't call me that. I don't like honorifics," Naruto said with a wave of his hand, as he hopped up to his feet. The last 3 days for him he had spent inside of his mindscape conversing, and settling matters with the tailed beasts inside of him, and rearranging his mindscape, so that they would all find some form of comfort. Shikaku was situated in a nice big desert with lots of things to kill, though Naruto had to block out the audio on that, so he didn't hear any of what was going on. He got Matatabi a giant human-styled room filled with giant cat toys for her, apparently her, as she identified, to play with so that she was amused. Isobu was situated at the bottom of a lake, easy enough. Son Goku was chilling in a forest by himself, and Kaguya was given a wide open space to run around in. Seiken was gifted with a giant garden filled with pits of acid on the ground, and giant acid-resistant flowers. Jimei didn't ask for anything, so he was left to fly around the other places, as he pleased. Jayuki was similar, but he seemed to find a nice, neutral spot where he could watch the others. Kurama now was the reason for the big sleeping period. Kurama had completely refused his yin and yang halves together once more. This was a great thing, because not only did Kurama grow by 4 times his normal power, thanks to having both halves reach full power again, but he had also gained a massive growth in pure size, as well. Since it was the splitting of his halves that had reduced his size, regaining his size again had gotten him to a size even larger than before, thanks to his huge gain in chakra. Now Kurama was literally the same size as the 10 tails when it was at its first form, the giant ugly larva stage that it had first appeared in. But Kurama at that stayed in size. The two of them had decided that they would see how strong Kurama had gotten. So Naruto and Kurama had spent the last 3 days inside of his mind fighting each other again. This time there were no hard feelings about the fight, since they were just doing it to see how large the boost in power to Kurama was. Now the 9-tailed fox was strong enough to push Naruto back for 3 entire days, before Naruto had defeated the giant fox, and they had estimated that Kurama's power had grown to the same size as that of the 10 tails itself. Kurama's growth to that size is the biggest proof of that. This was also a great test for Naruto, who had gotten all of the chakra that Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the Sage of 6 Paths, had given both him and Sasuke. Combined with the Asura chakra he inherited, and his own massive chakra, Naruto's own chakra reserves, and power was able to surpass the Sage of 6 Paths in pure size alone. Thankfully Naruto had avoided the unwanted side effect of getting any strange eyes that he honestly didn't even want. Just like when Hagoromo gave the Asura all of his chakra, and Asura didn't get any eye powers, Naruto got all of the chakra, but none of the eye power that went with it. Not that Naruto needed it, since he proved to be able to defeat the person with the Byakugan, Sharingan, and Rinnegan all in her head at the same time. There was no real point in getting an eye power he didn't even need. Naruto's truth-seeking balls had been the deciding factor against Kurama, since the tailed beasts didn't have a real counter for them. Naruto had the ultimate defense, an offense with them, so even Kurama's strongest attacks were able to be negated by Naruto. The two of them had some major fun with their sparring match to find out the strength of Kurama, and the match only served to increase the amount of respect that the other tailed beasts had for him, and his strength. "You have been asleep for 3 days. I wanted to ask you some questions about yourself. It is only right to get to know you," Rias told him, while Akeno was still in shock at the totally Gremory trait of not caring about being addressed by those lower than him on the totem pole. "Ha. That's all. I thought you were going to ask for something bigger. You seem way too nervous for somebody only asking a question. Sheesh, you act like I'm going to kill you or something for pissing you off. I'm not an Uchiha, I don't do shit like that," Naruto said, as he pointed to himself with a grin. He wasn't some over-emotional person that would kill for the smallest of issues. He would kick your ass, but not kill you for insulting him. "Uchiha." Akeno whispered to Rias from behind her, who just shrugged at the strange term. "Well then. I am Rias Gremory, the heir to the noble house of Gremory. I love my peerage like my own family, and I dislike Rise of Phoenix. My dream for the future is to become a good leader of my house, and win at all my raiding games." Rias introduced herself formally still, getting a sour look from Naruto for being so formal. So, raising his fists above him, he slammed it into the top of Ria's skull and sent her crashing into the floor. She was already holding her head in pain as she looked up at him, while Akeno was holding in a small laugh at the irritated look Naruto had. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, totally awesome ninja, and the strongest existence it would seem. I like ramen, training, fighting, and peace. I hate the 3 minutes it takes for instant ramen, hateful people hating for no reason, and when people are way too polite to me. My goal for the future is to build my own family, I guess. Naruto said thoughtfully, while Ria slowly stood up with a pout on her face. She had a large bump on her head from the blow, and she was sure it would be hurting for a while. Okay, and do you have any special powers, besides that weird energy of yours? Ria's asked, trying to distract herself from the amazing pain in her head. Well, I was never really good at jutsu that needed hand signs. I can do very advanced elemental manipulation with the 5 basic elements, and mix them together. I also gained the ability to use pure yin and yang chakra, and combine them into yin-yang release, the creation of all things. Naruto said, as he placed his hands a few inches apart from each other. The palms of his hands glowed a light blue color, and the air in between his palms was glowing, as well. It glowed brighter and brighter, until it stopped glowing, and in the palm of his hands was the most beautiful red rose that either girl in front of him had ever seen. The truth-seeking balls were a similar thing, only they also combined Senjutsu with yin-yang chakra, and the 5 elemental chakras to form an all-negating, all-destroying form of energy. With yin-yang release, Naruto created the form with yin energy, before he breathed life into the form, and created something with only his chakra. Unlike with elemental chakra, Naruto could create true life with his ability if he wanted to. He couldn't bring back the dead, but he could create creatures out of nothing with this ability. It was stated as the creation of all things because with it, as long as he had the chakra to spare, he could literally create anything that came to his mind. The best part, there were no hand signs to confuse him. All he had to do was imagine what he wanted, and use his chakra to make it. He already mastered the shape manipulation part by mastering his Rasengan, so it came to him pretty easily. Is that real? Akeno said lightly, and Naruto tossed her the rose for her to hold. Yep, completely real. If I can imagine it, then I can use my yin-yang release to create it. The name of that technique is called the creation of all things. Not a very creative name, but it is accurate. I can create anything I can imagine. Naruto said, as he placed his hands together again. He couldn't do this one-handed just yet, since his chakra was slightly out of whack from the huge increases. He was used to huge increases though, so it wasn't that out of whack. The glow between his palms increased, and both girls watched, as Naruto breathed life into nothing, as the chirping of a bird could be heard moments later. When he opened his not glowing hands, he showed a small orange-colored bird with bright blue eyes, that had the same general shape of a robin. The bird had bright blue eyes like its creator, and it had black stripes on its orange wings. The bird was small, but with a flap of its wings, it started to fly away from them, and fly in between the girls before turning one of the corners, and leaving their sight. Both girls looked stunned at the creation of life itself, something that was very much believed to be impossible without some sort of sacred gear, a gift from God, helping humans to do so. Creating artificial life was possible, very much so, but that wasn't the same as creating genuine life from nothing. No long process required for it to happen, just like he was breathing life into the air, and bending it to his will. Any other amusing surprises? Akeno asked with a roll of her eyes, not expecting anything else from him to be as amazing as that. Yep. Just like I can breathe life, I can take it away with this. My truth-seeking ball. Naruto declared boldly, liking the chance to show off his stuff in front of 2 hot girls. Naruto held his palm up, and pure black chakra seeped out of his pores, and started to take the shape of a ball so dark it was like looking into a black hole itself. It wasn't hard for Naruto to collect enough natural energy from this world, which surprisingly had a strange form of chakra. Naruto wasn't even slightly bothered by the minuscule amount of hate in the chakra. This natural chakra's hate was weak shit compared to the hate that Kurama used to carry in him. The orb finished forming into a perfect sphere, and Rias looked at it with analytical eyes, trying to work out how the technique worked. Truth-seeking balls, what does this do? Rias asked with a raised eyebrow. Anything that touches it is destroyed completely, and any forms of energy that it touches that aren't related to Senjutsu are completely negated and destroyed, as well. It is formed by combining fire, wind, lightning, earth, water, yin, yang, and nature chakra. It takes both mastering of shape and nature transformation before it can be safely used. Go on, try, and attack it. Naruto said, as he held it up, and made it levitate over to the other end of the hallway, so that either one of the girls could attack the orb with whatever they believed could be of use. Akeno pointed her finger at the orb, and a small bolt of lighting shot out of it, and raced towards the orb, before it was negated the second it touched the orb. Akeno didn't expect her own attack to work, but seeing her main form of combat taken out so easily was still more than a little annoying to her. She had hoped she could have done something to the orb. Still, she wondered very much how Senjutsu, a forbidden yokai art, came into play in the creation of this strange technique. Not up to snuff. Ryuz asked, as his body glowed, and hair waved around with crimson energy that was mostly spiritual in nature. It wasn't chakra, that much was for sure. She focused on her hands, and black energy with a red outline formed in a raging fashion in front of her. She shot it towards the truth-seeking ball in a straight line, and she grinned to herself when she saw that her attack lasted for half a second before it too was completely negated, and turned into dust that faded away in seconds. Oh, heads up. The truth-seeking balls also destroy things at an atomic level, and with their negation ability, they prevent special healing techniques from being used. If you get hurt by these, that is pretty much it. They can defend my body without me controlling them, and they have a range of 70 meters in all directions. I can make them heal themselves, explode, and change their shape. Naruto said, as he mentally called his ball over to him, and forced the technique to stop. It was a passive technique, so if he didn't call it off, it would never run out of chakra, and cancel. After it was formed, Naruto didn't have to supply it with chakra. Yet, he could also make it grow bigger by adding chakra, thus increasing its range and power. This technique be replicated? Ryuz asked with her eyes looking at where the ball had been, trying to think of how to copy it. Possible, if you master fire, wind, lighting, earth, and water chakra. Have a mastery over yin and yang chakra. Gain a mastery of senjutsu, and also master both shape and nature manipulation. You might be able to do it. Naruto said with a moment's thought. Then again, it might only be possible for people like him, since Sasuke couldn't copy it. It might be completely impossible for those without certain abilities to gain use of the technique. In history, only himself, Obito, Madara, the Sage, and Kaguya could use this technique. That was 5 people, one of which was born with the knowledge. 3 more of which automatically gained the ability after becoming Jinchuriki for the 10 tails. So, basically, that lowered the number down to just him, and Kaguya, and him. She was the 10 tails, so even she didn't count. He was the only person that hadn't been the 10 tails Jinchuriki or the beast itself to have had this ability. I see. That is a disappointment. This unique ability would come in handy. It is sort of like a big cheat code. Ryuz muttered with narrowed eyes, as she thought it over. If you could negate all techniques, and atomize anything that touched it, then anyone that was slower than you or your reaction time, could never even hope to beat you if you use these. Even with a faster opponent, if they couldn't use this senjutsu then they couldn't block this technique, either without facing serious or fatal injury from it. Possible instant death, as well. It was a completely unfair and unbalanced move that broke the rules. Gee, what now? Never mind, it isn't really a technique I would prefer to use in battle. It is sort of a technique to be saved when I get serious. So, tell me about yourself from Sparky over here. I can guess that she is a lightning user. Naruto said, as he pointed over to Akeno, who he was going to call Sparky from now on. Actually, I am a general magic user. I use fire, ice, water, and lightning magic. I also have large reserves of magic, and have both enhanced speed and strength. I am a rounded fighter that prefers lightning. Akeno informed him, though she was amused by the nickname he gave her, it wasn't a very accurate one in her opinion. Burns, electrocution, and freezing, are you some kind of sadist? Naruto asked with his eyebrows way high up, and she blinked at him guessing that. Ryuz blinked at the completely accurate guess, as well, and looked over at Naruto. Yes, she is an extreme sadist. Though, she doesn't show it most of the time in the form of pain. Normally she just teases people. How did you guess? Ryuz asked, while Akeno slowly got out of her shock at being figured out like that. She is. I was just teasing her. I guess you need a new nickname, Sparky. How about Sedeno? Sadist Akeno. I like it. From now on I am going to call you Sedeno. Naruto said with a grin, as he looked at the suddenly not amused Akeno, and Naruto's stomach growled to alert him to the fact that he still hadn't eaten in 3 days again. Naruto turned around, and started to try, and find his way towards the kitchen, so that he could raid it. He left a smiling Ryuz, and frowning Akeno behind, as he rubbed his stomach. He wondered if he could get the Grayfia lady to make him ramen again. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.